Do you ever find that sharing a living space with other people means that while there's any sort of consciousness in your living area, whether that's your immediate area or anywhere in your house, that it completely stifles your brain's ability to unlock and sort of unravel and expand to the point of like allowing you to access a piece of yourself that's just not available while there is any consciousness? I've always had that. And I think that might explain why I've always preferred starting my day almost at night. So I've always been someone who gets up early for work, but I'll always become alive at night. And it's always once people have gone to bed. So they will head to bed at, say, 10 o'clock. And the moment that I'm confident that they're actually asleep is the moment my brain almost sighs relief. You can really feel it inside. It's almost like, tension, wait for everyone to go to bed, and then... And I feel it sort of here, like as if that sigh that I've just done was obviously felt here. And I do feel that as well, but it's kind of in your head as well. It's really weird. Once people are asleep and there's no consciousness other than my own, it's like your brain kind of just unravels and starts to spread out and expand. And you can get into a flow state. You can feel no tension. You're totally at ease, no stress. You start thinking more creatively. You start getting motivated. That just isn't available to you while people are awake. And I kind of think it's related to that need for solitude that you hear a lot of people who are neurodivergent. I've heard that talked about a lot. And when I first heard that, it was one of those ones where I'm just like, yes, need for solitude. That really explains me. And I never really gave it too much thought. But when I heard that phrase, the need for solitude, I was like, oh yeah, I totally get that. Absolutely. As I mentioned on previous videos, I met my now ex-partner when I was 16. She was 15. And prior to meeting her, I spent so much time on my own, out of choice. And I have 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters. So there's a lot of us in the house we lived in. But thankfully, it was big enough that we each had a bedroom. And often people were out doing their own thing. So often I had space and no one around me in the house. There's often my sisters would be out riding horses and at horse shows. My other brothers would be out at friends and stuff. And I would be able just to have my free reign to do whatever I wanted. And often that would be spending time at the computer, either gaming or doing digital art, learning 3D animation or web development and that kind of thing from a young age, sort of 12 onwards. And I think I always got that need for solitude that I think so many people who need it miss out on. But what happened was I eventually met my now ex-partner at 16. The moment we met, we started spending all our time together. So we went to different schools, but after school, I would either hop on a train to her place and I would stay there sometimes over the night. I would stay in the study sometimes, or get picked up by my mum quite late, or my dad, sort of 10:30, 11 o'clock. But on days when I didn't go to hers, she would either come to mine and stay the night, or come to mine and also get picked up. And that happened really early on. This really strong, anxious feeling that was quite persistent, that I recognised, and I'm not sort of speaking in hindsight, this is something I actively remember thinking and feeling, is I feel very stressed by the amount of time we spend together. Not because the time we spend together stressed me out, but the loss of time I have to have that solitude. I now no longer get solitude. It's just something I don't have ever, because you've always got that other person. Sometimes I'd wake up on a Saturday morning and for whatever reason she wasn't there. We hadn't stayed over together, but we would be meeting up at sort of midday or something. And I'd wake up at sort of 10 o'clock in the morning, having gone to bed really late. I've got that solitude, but I know in 2 hours I'm not going to have that time anymore. And even knowing that would prevent me from really getting into that same sort of state that I have always craved. So as I say, I remember actively thinking that we are spending so much time together and it's making me feel anxious. But I never said anything because, being the other person who gets told, spending so much time together is making me anxious, that's probably not a nice thing to hear. And it probably would always come across the wrong way to say, I want some time alone, I think. So I never said anything. I just carried on with the seeing each other daily. And we did that, for our whole lives, really. And it wasn't until I started looking into the autism and ADHD for myself that when I heard the need for solitude, I sort of realised that is what I recognised I always needed. I needed that space. And I never did anything to give me that time back that I had always needed and had always had the luxury of. I knew the loss of it made me feel really bad and anxious inside. But being sort of people-pleasing, I never pursued having any of that back. And it's something I really regret now. So this week, my two boys and their mum are on a holiday that I would have previously gone on. But now we're getting divorced. I'm obviously not going on that. So I've had the best part of a week so far. There's still a few days to go. Time completely to myself. And I was a bit worried that I was going to feel really lonely and sad. But what's actually happened is I've found the same sort of feeling I always used to have before we ever met, of being completely free in your thoughts, completely able to enter a flow state, able to do the things that I know I want to do, that previously their consciousness around me would have just prevented me from starting certain things. And I've been able to do that this week, anytime I want. And it feels so freeing. And I've had so much inner peace this week. I haven't had 1 minute of sadness that they're away, because obviously I know they're coming back. Yes, doesn't mean to say I haven't missed them a bit, but I've so appreciated that solitude that I've always craved and needed, and I think I always will. And it kind of gives me confidence going forwards when I'm going to have my own house and I'll have the children 50% of the time, knowing that I can, when they're not around, have the benefit of that solitude. It's going to be so good for me. I think one thing I've thought is that I have really shaky hands. I've always known I've had shaky hands, but I kind of started to develop that a few years into my relationship with my now ex-partner. And I think now looking back, I can attribute where it came from to a continuous feeling of anxiety that really came about, I think, from that lack of solitude. Because it's a feeling that just never really went away because we're always together. And I think it was always there, hovering around in the background, and you kind of just get used to having it there. And I don't think that's very good for your nervous system. So I think the reason my hands are shaky is my nervous system has been shot to pieces from a lot of anxiety caused from a lot of different sources that I wasn't really in tune with. But one of the major ones being that need for solitude and never getting it. And it's not like you always want to avoid people. It's just that your nervous system can never sort of power down while they're around. So the only time you could kind of do that is once everyone's gone to bed. And then you get a number of hours based on how much you're willing to stay up late for. And for me, I've just always gone to bed crazily late. I could get into a flow state at sort of 2 a.m. But I think that's because I couldn't reach that point of flow state until people have gone to bed. So my only chance to get that would be at sort of really late hours. And I think that's why I've always been someone who stays up crazily late. Like when I do live on my own, I expect I will be able to reach sort of a level of creativity and flow state that I can do during the day rather than waiting till nighttime. So it means my sleep patterns hopefully will improve quite a bit. And the thing is, always staying up late kind of comes at a cost. ADHD traits become worse with poor sleep, for example. You can become more irritable, creating relationship strain. That can lead to you being totally misunderstood in your behaviours and the way you respond to certain things because you're just exhausted and tired all the time. But the amount of times I sort of woke up in the morning and felt like a zombie, and I would say to my ex-partner, I feel so exhausted. I'd always get the same response, which would be, well, you shouldn't have gone to bed so late then. That used to really frustrate me to hear that, because I'd think, well, like, it never feels like a choice to stay up really late. It's like if I said to myself, the sensible thing to do is to go to bed now at, say, 11 o'clock. There's just a part of me that just cannot do that. I cannot do it. I feel like you need that time of solitude once everyone's gone to bed where you can just be the real version of yourself, which is a bit sad to say, really, because it's like saying you can't be the real you when other people are around. And I think, that's true to some extent. It's not like you're consciously avoiding being yourself when other people are awake, but there is just this hurdle, this blocker in yourself and in your brain that is just there whilst other people are around, and it's not there when you know they've gone to bed and you're left alone. The other thing is, while people are awake in your general space, you're sort of hyper aware of their presence, which I guess means that there's this niggling feeling in the back of your mind that you're just going to get interrupted if you start doing something for yourself. When they're asleep, that's not going to happen. So it makes it easier to settle down into something that you're otherwise worried about starting in the first place. I think the other thing is, at night, there's way less sensory overload. Like, you can set the lighting exactly as you like it, which perhaps doesn't suit the other people in the house. There's no background noise from other people going about their thing. There's no arguing with your kids. I've got one son who likes to wrestle in his bedroom with like a wrestling doll, and there's forever sort of thud, thud, thud of him doing moves in his room, and you can hear it downstairs. Just that can be very, very tiring to have to hear constantly, and just puts you on edge. You know that there's never going to be a knock at the door for another delivery or anything like that. So I think that's why nighttime is quite appealing, but mainly I think it's that feeling of solitude that just lets your brain unravel. Another big one I think is true about having solitude is your brain can relax because it's not having to sort of keep up with or be aware of all the other people in the house. And I think that's part of the trouble, is like you're forever not consciously doing it, but subconsciously tracking everything around you. So at nighttime, you have so much less for your brain to track. So in my case, the only thing left in the house once everyone's gone to bed is the cat. She's free to sort of roam around and wander in. But what she typically does is, once the kids have gone to bed, she settles down on the landing outside of their bedroom doors. And she'll wait for them to wake up in the morning, unless she gets hungry, and then she'll kind of bother me for some food. So, yeah, in my case, I think that's also why solitude feels so good at night, is that there's literally nothing else around. There's no potential knocks at the door for a delivery, no noise coming from around the house, no nothing. It's just you in your space to think, to breathe, to relax, to unravel creatively. Trying to explain to other people why you need solitude, you might come across sort of unloving and uncaring. But ultimately, the need for solitude, I think, doesn't mean you don't love people in your life or want them around. It's just recognising that you need time for your nervous system to sort of regulate and settle down. And obviously, if you live with people, especially children, you can't engineer that really, which is why I've probably coped all these years by going to bed at stupid hours. It's because that's the only way I can have that time. So I am really excited about my future of having my own space. Obviously, I'm going to miss my children when I'm not with them, but I'm equally as excited as I am nervous about it, that I am going to just be able to achieve a flow state, achieve inner peace. And I think as a result, when I don't have the solitude, everyone will get the best of me because I would have had that reset. So what do you think? How does solitude affect you, or the lack of affect you? Is it something you need, or when you get it, how does it make you feel? Do you feel the same, where your brain unravels and you can think creatively, or do you get some other feeling? Kind of interested to know how everybody else feels about that. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.